Hello and welcome to Stitchin Tree Quilts from Marti and Me Club. This month we'll be exploring Marti's Seven Sisters design, which has no set-in seams. The pattern includes instructions for a table runner, a throw quilt, or a bed-size quilt. In our class this month, we're going to make the table runner. Fabric instructions include enough fabric that you can make the table runner in two ways. The table runner is quite long, and I like the smaller version as well. Marti uses her Set H template set and a 60-degree equilateral triangle ruler for this particular block. Won't you join us as we make Seven Sisters?
Let's take a look at Marti's Seven Sisters pattern. On the inside cover you see different variations of how to put your blocks together. Marti always tells us what her inspiration was regarding the block and the templates, and often gives us little hints and suggestions. She has a book called The Perfect Patchwork System that has several different patterns for different ideas to use with her Set H. Pages 4 and 5 is an overview of the 60-degree family and hexagons, and tells you how you can measure the finished side of your units. This is good background information to keep in your files. You never know when you're going to need that. On page 6, Marti indicates how you should select your fabric for this particular unit because you're using a cheater method to make the Seven Sisters block. You want to make sure that you choose fabric that has small print or can read as a solid. You want to avoid directional fabric. On page 7, Marti breaks down the different parts of the block. She has triangle A, small triangle B, diamond C, quadrilateral D. And then Marti includes a chart as how you could make these particular blocks in different sizes. On page 8, Marti describes template Set H and shows you the different block units that you can make with template Set H. On page 9, Marti shows you how you can make the Seven Sisters block from a 13 by 15 inch piece of fabric. A fat quarter would work. And then beginning on page 10, Marti indicates right-handed and left-handed instructions for how to cut using Set H. Page 12 has the left-handed instructions. On page 14, triangle B, it's important to note that this is the same cutting method whether you are right-handed or left-handed. And also to note that it's important to pay attention to which is your straight of grain when cutting your triangle B and making a notation on that. For cutting diamond C, please note that you'll be using the small number 53 diamond. On page 16, Marti includes secrets for how to piece the Seven Sisters block with a particular focus on grain line. Page 17 indicates how to put the whole block together. If you're going to be making the table topper, you will not use these instructions on page 17. You'll use her alternate instructions that begin on page 19. So for page 19, since we demonstrated how to make the table topper, it's important to note that you need to double each block. So for the triangle A star fabric, you'll need 12 units. For the triangle B star fabric, you'll need 36 units, which will require 2 strips. For triangle A, you will need 2 units from the contrasting fabric, and triangle B, you will need 6 units from the contrasting fabric. For diamond C, the background, you'll need 36 units, which will involve 2 strips. And for quadrilateral D, you'll need 12 pieces, which will involve 2 strips. you will be able to use part of your remaining strip from the diamond C unit. On page 20, when Marti gives you the instructions on how to cut and make your center diamond, you'll need 3 strips that are 2.5 inches by 12 inches from the contrasting fabric. Also, on page 20, when Marti shows you how to cut your diamond, a tip that I learned was to use my 60-degree equilateral ruler to go ahead and square up those corners and making sure that my diamond is exactly 60 degrees. On page 21, you complete the tabletop and you start out by cutting 2 pieces of main fabric from 13.5 by 24 inches long. Cut those from the length of fabric if you can. On page 23, Marti shows you a no binding method for finishing the table runner. That works pretty well, but if you want to quilt your table topper to make those stars appear that they actually are stars and not our cheater method, you may want to go ahead and do your quilting first with just your top and your batting, and then go ahead and add your backing and top stitch around those edges. When I did that, I went back in and I did a little more quilting just so that it would set that down nicely and hold my backing to my quilt. But by using this method, you don't have to worry about your backing fabric walking away from you on the edges of your quilt. Your edges of your quilt will stay nice and true. On page 25, Marti shows you how you can use the Seven Sisters block to make a large throw. On page 29, she shows it as a double or queen size bed quilt. And on page 31, Marti shows you what you can do if you do not have a 60-degree triangle ruler. I don't necessarily recommend this method. It's a lot more difficult. Page 34, Marti has more tips for grain line. And on page 35, Marti shows alternate Seven Sisters blocks that you can make using other template sets from Marti. Besides set H, you can use set G and set N. To complete the Seven Sisters table runners, you will need 3 fabrics. You will need 1 yard of background fabric, a ½ yard of star fabric, and a fat quarter or large scrap of contrasting fabric. It's important to avoid directional prints. In this particular block, we will not be able to have the Seven Sisters effect if you have a directional print or a large print in your fabrics. Let's take a look at set H. In set H, you have item number 51, which is a hexagon, the large hexagon, and then you have items 52 and 53, which are both the diamond-shaped pieces. Go ahead and remove the backing paper from your templates, and they're ready for use. In the information that goes with template set H, there's a lot of information on how to construct and piece using both the diamond unit and the hexagon unit, as well as several different types of block construction that you can do with those. It's important to keep this documentation together with your set. You will only need 1 strip of the star fabric and 1 strip from your fat quarter of the contrasting fabric for the triangle pieces, so you can take the rest of your fabric and set it aside. Once you've done that, take your fabric and turn it parallel to to the bottom of your rotary mat with your salvages on the left side. It would be more natural for us to cut with a template going from the right to the left, but that's going to give us an awkward cut every other cut. So in this case, let's start out by cutting with the salvages on the left side. Take your 60-degree ruler, and with it half on and half off, I've actually lined up my template edge with the edge of the fabric at the top. I'll make that first cut. This part is waste. We'll just throw this away. Now we'll turn our template over, and again, using that 4.5-inch line, we'll make our second cut. Turn your template once again. To make that third cut, and now you can remove the rest of your contrast fabric because you only need 2 of these triangles for the contrast. We need a total of 12 of the triangles for the star block. 12 will make 2 blocks. It takes 6 for each block. We now have 6 cut, and I'll continue until I have 12 pieces cut of this background fabric. Once you have 12 triangles from the star fabric and 2 triangles from the contrasting fabric, go ahead and stack them into sets, and then from those sets you can engineer the corners. Once again, I like to use a piece of the back side of one of my rotary cutting mats. Then you'll take your equilateral triangle tool, notch off the corner, complete the corners for all the triangles, and you're ready for the next step.